How you doing? This is Neil from masterpaintingnow.com, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to do a kind of a blocky version of a figure and how to see the form that is within figures. And so let's go ahead and get started. This is what we're going to end up with. Here's the photo that we're going to start with. And this is from here we go. It's part of the agreement that I share where it's from. So it's from since she's stock right here on deviantart.com. Now I recommend when you first start doing this to try to like trace right on top of the photo. And then you can like draw a basic gesture drawing of the pose and then start to block that out and to make it look three-dimensional. So let's go ahead and hide this so we can see what we're doing. So you want to try to do is you want to try to see the blockiness within the figure. And to do that, you have to kind of think about the angles that it's towards you at. And it's hard to see some of the landmarks here on the body, which is also good to look at because she's in like this like clothing. But nonetheless, we can't even see her where her belly button is or anything like that. I like to do is start from the pit right here. That gives me a center line. Comes straight down as the pit between the collarbone, comes straight down to the crotch. Now we have a basic center line. We can start to kind of see what it is we're trying to draw. We know the rib cage isn't too much lower than the breast because we know the breasts sit on the up to like the 7th rib. And so it's only a couple more ribs down before you get to that 10th rib. So you can kind of start to visualize the rib cage shape within here. And how do you know how to make that shape is, well, if you've already drawn figures from a 3/4 view, you know what happens in a 3/4 view. That is, one breast like this is more from a side view, and the other breast is actually more rounded than it would be from a front view, like so. So knowing that, we can see that, okay, we must be looking at the figure and there she's turning away from us like this, right? So she's turning away. So everything on this side, if you just draw a line coming down from the end of the collarbone down like this, and from this collarbone down, we can actually see that we're in a 3/4 view. Once you know you're in a 3/4 view, then you should know how the rib cage looks from that view. And so up like this, and we know this is also going to be the front view. So everything from that collarbone and kind of coming straight down to the inside part of the thighs here. Sometimes you'll be able to see the parts of the inside part here of another one would be like over here. That would give you another landmark to look at. If we can see through the clothing, that would be the part of that. I forget what that's called, but it's part of the hip bone that comes up like that, and it creates that iliac line that comes down. That's part of this iliac crest, and it's that part of the bone of the iliac crest of the pelvic bone that sticks out. Has some fancy name anyway. Knowing that, then you can kind of draw that line coming down like that. If not, just kind of draw it toward the middle of the leg. And so now we know that the rib cage has to start turning at that point. And that gives us this kind of side view, right? So we can kind of bring this line up, and then knowing that this is going to be a side view, right? This would come all the way up like this, and this would kind of have a shape like that, and then the oval part that the arm attaches to. You don't need to draw that, I'm just showing that we know that all that is there. So then you can imagine the corner being somewhere right about here, and you can draw a kind of curved line coming up to where that collarbone would kind of end behind the arm there. And you can kind of imagine this is the side plane right here. You can see that from 3/4 view, the breast usually extends outside that line just a little bit. We can go ahead and just mark in some basic underline shape here. And because we're doing kind of a mannequin shape, we're looking at the structure. We can kind of come up like a teardrop there. And we'll also do that for this breast. Down, and we'll just come up like this to a teardrop like so. And then you can actually see where the nipple will be placed to be right here. And you can, in the whole thing, I see how the collarbones are kind of angled right here. Angled, and you can see the rib cage will also kind of have this, slight angle to it. And actually knowing that, we got to kind of curve that a little different. Right, and so that's where if you want to place the nipples, that's where they would go. I like to actually draw the deltoids because seeing where the deltoids are, you can see it comes out, it comes to the other side of the arm, right? So we know the deltoid, I'll show you on this side here. We just can see the deltoid here, and we can kind of see right there where it attaches. So we know it attaches to the side of the arm. Well, if you don't know that, now you do, and I teach it in my anatomy course. Right, so that's where the deltoid inserts, right to the side of the arm. And then you have the bicep on one side, the tricep on the other, and right in the middle sometimes you can see the brachialis muscle. And then the brachioradialis kind of comes from between all of those underneath and kind of comes like this and connects to the thumb side. Anyway, so this is an anatomy. We're trying to see structure. We're trying to see form. We're trying to see the three-dimensionality. Well, knowing that that is now a side plane, we know we're viewing the side of the arm, but I also can tell that I'm viewing some of the front of the arm because I can see this pit right here, and that pit I know to be part of the front of the arm. So in this case, what I'm calling the front of the arm is if you had your arms relaxed at your side and your palms were touching your thighs, right? So your palms aren't facing out, your palms aren't facing behind you. Take your palms and glue them to the sides of your thighs and have your arm coming straight down. When you do that, you'll notice that the front of the arm is facing forward now, right, with your chest. Your chest is facing forward, the bicep is facing forward. And then the side of the tricep, bicep, this side right here is facing sideways. It's on the side of your body when you do that. So that's what I mean. So when I talk about the front of the arm, I'm talking about the bicep. So knowing that from here forward, this is the bicep, that the bicep can't all be seen from the side view. Only part of it can. So I know I'm seeing some of the front view of the arm here. And so what we can do, and also if you kind of look carefully, you can kind of see that line. And if you kind of look at the shadows and stuff, sometimes if you know the light source, it can kind of reveal form. And this could, when you first saw this, you thought, well, this would be easy, right? Well, try to do it yourself. It's not as easy as it looks, and it's definitely an exercise I recommend doing. So go and try to find some nude photos on DeviantArt. I can't use a lot of them on YouTube. One, it would just immediately get knocked on YouTube. But another thing is because a lot of those are not usable for videos like this, but you can use them for personal use. So we can kind of see that shape, right? Now we can kind of block it out, and that's a block. I'm not going to draw those other lines, but just showing you that's where it's at. So you want to try to see the three-dimensionality and try to see it as blocks. Don't try to see it as cylinders, because that doesn't really show you whether you're looking at the front or side of the arm. Try to find the edge and see it as rectangles. And then you can go, okay, well, now I know where the edge is. Now I can, kind of start to see, what might the shape of the arm be? I can, and then you can start go, okay, well, the bicep is round, and it kind of comes out like this on this part of the bicep, has this roundness to it. Then it kind of goes like that, and then maybe there's another bump here for the tricep, right? And you start to see the thing anyway. There we go. So now this arm here is a little bit harder to determine what side of the arm you're looking at. Well, I can see the bicep going in here, and then I can see the I forget what this muscle is called. So I think it's the I can't remember the name of it right now. But anyway, this muscle, you can kind of see it right there a little bit like this. And you can see the latissimus rather. And then you can see the tricep come out. So because I can see that line of the bicep, I think it's another coraca muscle, I can't remember which one that is though. Anyway, so it might actually still be the coracobrachialis that comes underneath and then goes up. I don't remember. Anyway, because you can see that line, I know we're looking at the inside, right? The side, in other words, when you have your arm face the side, palms glued to your thighs, that inside of your bicep is touching your rib cage. You're touching the side of your body. And so this would be the inside. So we have the outside, then we have the inside, and then we have the front, and the back would be where the triceps are. That's just what I'm referring to when I'm talking about the front, back, and side, just in case it's confusing. Now looking at this, I can get a little bit of a cue from the deltoid. Now the reason why I'm going through this is I'm teaching you how to see the form in the figures so that when you look at photos, you'll be able to do it too. And if you just go to try to do this, maybe you'll find it really easy. Maybe you'll find it a little more difficult. And hopefully this video will help you start to see the forms better. And I recommend when you're trying to draw from imagination also to take in some of these things. And that's why we're doing this. So you can take some of this knowledge to your drawing from your imagination and go, I can kind of see, I can visualize the blockiness easier. So I can see some of the top plane of that deltoid. So when I'm looking at the deltoid here, I can see a little bit of the top plane because I can see that where the collarbone's kind of going in there. I'm like, okay, so if I can see a little bit of the top plane, also I know the deltoid's wrapping around because I'm seeing the inside of the arm here. I know the deltoid's wrapping around to the other side of the arm. This inside is wrapping around to the outside of the arm. So I know that I have to be looking, logically deducing from that information. I know that I must be looking at some of the top plane of the bicep. How do I know that? Because if I can see the inside of the bicep here, and I know it wraps around and the deltoid attaches to the other side, the outside of the arm, then that is where it inserts here. See, this would be the inside, and it inserts to the side right here, and then it goes. So I know I have to be seeing some of the top of the bicep, right? And so I know I have to have a little bit of the top here, the top plane being visible here. So I can go like that. I can see that top part of that deltoid right there. Then I can draw a line coming down like this, kind of box it, boxify it, make up a word. I can go ahead and draw this form in there. That's fine. We can just go and just draw that form because we still need to boxify it. How much of that top bicep am I able to see? Well, I know this all right here has to be the side plane because I'm seeing the inside of the arm. So we're only seeing a thin part, pretty much I'm going to assume about the same amount as the deltoid, and just come across like that. Boom. The deltoid covers the bicep so we don't see the other part of that box. And look at that. Now we can start to see form just by doing that. And then you can shade one side or the other side. Just decide where you want light coming from. You can make light coming directly from the top, or make light coming directly from the right, or however you want it, and just start shading certain parts of this. This arm is a little bit easier because the light actually kind of gives it away. The light kind of shows. We can see where where the directional light's coming from right there. So we know the light's kind of coming from the left of her and above. And this plane here is going away. It's tucking away, and it's tucking away quite fastly, which shows me that you have this kind of curve, and then it kind of cuts away like that. So we can see that side plane of that box right there. That's the edge of the box right there. And you can kind of see it in the wrist as well. And so you just draw that edge of the box right here, and then you can draw the outline of the arm. And then the elbow, we can just leave for like an oval shape and just kind of leave it blank inside of there. Right, so that's perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but that allows us to be able to see. I'm going to go ahead and you can also follow the shading of what you're looking at and kind of figure out the light source and go, okay, well, then obviously this plane right here would be a little bit in shadow because it's turning away from the light. That part technically, if I made this a box, this would all be turning away from the light. But it kind of rounds out and flattens out here when you think about the actual three-dimensional grid on the body. And some of this would kind of be like in mid-tone because it's kind of facing light, but it's also kind of turning away. Right, remember we're simplifying the shapes here, and this would also be kind of turning away, and those top planes would be more hitting the light. And anything that's turned more away would get darker. So for the head, take the basic shape here, draw a line coming down the center, and then a little bit to the side of the eyeball, you can see that's all front plane. Like that, and everything else here, this is all side plane. So you can just kind of draw that basic part of the head there. If you want to draw the ear, and you can. But that right there, this is all side plane, which wouldn't be hitting. All that front plane would be hitting light more. You can also even do it at the bottom of the chin here. A little bit of underplane there. Boom. Right, then you see the cast shadow right there, but we don't have to do that part. Put the collarbones in. All right, so far so good. Let's move down to this arm here. So we can kind of see that we're seeing a lot of the top plane here. Same thing with the hand, right? So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's pop the hand in here, which I'll break up like this. We can see the top plane. We can't really see any side plane. If we can, it's very little, like right there, right? That's turning away from it. It's very little. We can see a whole different plane of the thumb here. And maybe a little bit of the other part of the thumb. The fingers, I'm just going to kind of reduce to like this. We're not going to worry about the fingers, right? That's a whole different thing for hands. So we can kind of see, though, we know that if this arm is attaching to this arm, this muscle goes like that. We can see this would be part of that kind of top plane. And we can kind of see the wrist here. So if you pay attention closely, there's a little bit of the side plane of the wrist there. So usually when I try to see the, how much of the side plane of the arm of the forearm am I seeing, I look to the wrist, right? Because you see that naturally the wrist is kind of boxy just in general. So you can look at that and go, okay. And then I know up here it has to attach to this up here as well. And so I'm going to just make a line like this. I'm going to leave it kind of curved instead of making a straight line. If I made it a straight line, it would look like that, which you can do if you want to. And so there we have it. So now we have that side plane here, and that's turning away from the light because the light is coming from the upper left. That is, the light is coming from the left-hand side, but then it's also coming toward us a little bit like this. Right? And so because it's coming toward us a little bit like that, it would hit this plane just a little bit, but it'd still be darker than the plane that's hitting directly, which are these planes. If you don't understand how lighting works and how to shade things, I recommend taking my course, The Fundamentals of Drawing Anything, at masterpaintingnow.com. If you need a discount code, just let me know. I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit. I think I'm just a little bit too zoomed in there. I'm going to actually use this to move around. It's easier. So let's finish the torso because this part can be difficult for a lot of people to see. Proko goes into like the robo beam. I think that's pretty helpful to do those exercises to kind of see it. But with doing this, you can kind of already see the three-dimensionality anyway. So we have this kind of side plane here, and this whole front plane actually would be, more in shadow based on how we're simplifying it. That plane right there is facing the light. And then with the breast as well, we'd kind of see this side here would kind of, I actually shaded the breast totally backwards for some reason when I did the other one in that underplane. Right? So if you wanted to boxify that rib cage, you could very easily. You can just go, okay, well, it goes like this, and then actually when we boxify it, it kind of comes down toward us a little bit, right? If we want to turn this into a box, because we're seeing a little bit of that underplane. And then we know that, and she has a kind of a short torso, and then it's kind of, or maybe it's just this pose, because usually it seems like this one would be bigger, but it's quite tiny right here. Then you would see the edge here like that, and it comes up this way, it comes back, oops. And you can kind of see, the box fitting in here. And if we come all the way down to the crotch, then it's like this, right? And that could be helpful. But I find it hard to draw on top of if you were like drawing from imagination. I find it much easier to just think about, this basic shape here and then draw on top of it. So like I would, have my egg shape here. Then I would think about where my center line is, and then I can cut into it and make my side plane here. And then I know up here has my arm and my other arm here. From that I can start to, base. I know like from here that's about the halfway line from the collarbone to here down to here. I know I have to come and reach my crotch line here. I know about a third of that space is where the love handles will be. Boom. And I can, if it's a 3/4 view, it's like that. I know the belly button is somewhere here. I can get the exact placement. And then everything here starts to come outward, right? Because it's a female, so we kind of start. And that to me is pretty easy. I think the way I teach how to do it, you don't think you have to like draw boxes. I think that actually makes it more difficult to see the anatomy. But whatever works for you is what you should use. So, right. So next thing is, how do we start to see the hips? Now this is kind of difficult because she has these clothes on that are quite thick. It makes it kind of difficult. At least some parts are very thick. Like it looks like there's another clothing underneath here. Probably I forget what they're called. They tighten everything up, make everything tighter, try to hold fat in and stuff. We kind of see, because of this bump and this bump, it kind of helps us see like where the hip bones might be. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, okay, where are those hip bones at? I also just know, I can kind of go, well, I know where the butt starts to come up right here, that this has to be love handle, like coming up like that and then curving. And so I know if I kind of follow that around that this has to be love handle. So, okay, that's what that um, Spanx, whatever she's wearing, is compressing the love handle here. And that's just a roll of fat that we see. That's part going up toward, we're starting to get up to the rib cage up here. And so I can kind of see, and then I can see the leg here and kind of come around like this. Now I can start to kind of see what's there, right? So that's what I'm thinking about. That's how I'm trying to find this. I go, okay, so if that's the case, then I know the hip has to be rolling around like this, and then it has to come down, to the crotch where the leg attaches. So you can see here's the crotch. You can kind of see where the leg attaches to the body here, up like this, right? Those are like where the iliac lines. So I'm trying to find the iliac lines. And once you find those iliac lines, then you know that the iliac crest is going to follow that with the hip bone. So you can kind of start to see these planes here. And then on the top of the iliac line is going to be, I know it's like this. That's because of the fat there. I'm just going to pull this into one shape like that. So that's what I'm trying to see. And so this whole part here, this right here would all be the front plane of that, like so. Right, that would all be the front plane. And then this all right here is all side plane. And if you want to draw that line, you can, coming down to the buttocks, right? So all this here I'll just shade it really fast. This all right here kind of be like a side plane. But I also know that a little bit of this here, part of the leg, is a front plane, but we're not going to worry about that right at this point. Now I think about this leg line, right, where the leg attaches into the body. It comes higher up on the side. So from the front, it would actually stop right about here from the front plane. But from the side plane comes higher, probably almost goes up to there where it attaches, and I'm going to come down like this, right? So now, and so if you think about the hip shape right here, this would be like another oval. There's these two oval holes right here. Imagine these being holes like a G.I. Joe figure or something. They have a ball socket that fits in here, and the leg attaches and attaches in there. That's like the three-dimensional. If you were to rip the legs out, right? This is kind of like what you'd be left with. That's what I'm thinking about. Think about that shape there, because the buttocks then wrap around to the side. And we're actually technically seeing, more than one kind of like plane of the butt, but we're just going to leave it like that. And then we're going to show where the legs come out and attach. And this is where we need to now boxify the legs. I can just, sketch in. Well, I kind of want to be able to see the knee a little bit still because I want to show you something. But we can start to pull these shapes. All right, so how do we see whether we're seeing the front plane? So the front plane of the leg is going to be if you're standing straight and your knees are pointed out and your feet are pointed out, right? That plane we can see from the front view, that is the front of the leg. And then you have the outside of the leg and the inside thighs, right? And you have the back leg, which is where the butt is. I can tell I'm seeing some of the front plane of the leg and some side plane of the leg, right? You can see that pretty clearly. You can definitely tell because of the light. So the light is usually hitting on an edge, right? So you see a lot of the light there. That's usually like the edge of the form. Now the edge of the form here is not a box. It's, it's more rounded, but you can still see that this is where the light's hitting. So we know that's like the edge. That's one giveaway where you can see the turning point that you're seeing, because you can see there's shadow here and the shadow here, right? So shadow comes up like that and fades out. Shadow comes here and fades out. That's a good hint as to where that edge is. So we want to find the edge. So we know the edge is somewhere around here. So that's one way to find it. Another way is just thinking about logically. The knee is facing this way, right? But I can see some of the side of the knee here. So let's go ahead and put that side plane of the knee. But I can also see just a tiny little smidge of the front plane of the knee there. It's kind of hard to see, but I can definitely see some of the front plane of the knee. Then we have this kind of top plane here of the knee, of the patella. We can kind of see the side of it and the front plane of it. So I know I'm seeing a little bit of the front plane of the knee, which is very foreshortened, and I'm seeing a lot of the side plane of the knee. So that means as it rolls up here, I can see I'm seeing some of that top plane of the knee as well. And then from that, we can kind of deduce that I must be seeing some of the top plane of the thigh. because if it were totally sideways, you would still have a line in here, right? A light line. So even if you're seeing the exact, matter of fact, look down here, watch. The calf, we're seeing pretty much the exact side view of the calf right here, right? We're not seeing any of the back plane or front plane, except for down here by the foot, we might be seeing a little bit of the front plane of the calf. But for the most part, we're just seeing the side plane of the calf. But we can still see the light is hitting like right about here, right? So is that an edge? Are we seeing two different parts of the calf? And no, we're not. It's just the calf has roundness to it, right? So it's not like we're seeing the edge there. So we're just seeing the side plane of the calf there. And so you have to kind of think about the anatomy and think of, oh man, there we go. So you have to kind of think about the anatomy and what it is we're looking at, and then what part of the leg is turning toward us. And so like I said, the knee is a good giveaway as to how much of that, and also the torso here, right? So you can see that we see the front part of the torso and the side plane of the torso, and the legs kind of coming out like this, but we know that we have to build, see top part of the top plane here because of where the leg attaches. So you can see all the way up here, the leg comes up here and it starts to attach up here, and we kind of see this plane. And because if this line right here, if the buttock line had gone all the way over here, or if this edge right here, see how you can see it coming like with the attachment, and this is like where it attaches and it comes that way. If that edge would go all the way over to here, right, she would move her leg even more and twist her body a little bit more and move her leg more this way, then we wouldn't be able to see maybe any of that top plane. But also, I also have to consider where it is I'm viewing the person from, because if I'm viewing it kind of from above, my eye lines up here somewhere, then naturally some of the top of the top of this leg here would be visible to me anyway. So the knee and that kind of look it together, and hopefully I explained that well enough. It kind of gives you an idea, right? You can kind of see the boxy form there, right there, and that right there would be the edge. And you can just kind of follow it up. How far up can you see? And then it starts to like be like more of a front plane, but because it's no longer really, it's still kind of the leg, but not really the leg. Once you start getting here, you can kind of still see the leg a little bit, but we're just going to draw all the way up like that. Technically, it would kind of start to smooth out over here more like this, but we're going to do it like that because we're boxifying it. Right, there we go. This here, we might be able to see, I mean, let's see, it's hard to tell with this leg. Let's go down a little bit. Look at the ankle. So we can kind of see with the ankle, you can kind of see a little bit of side plane there and then all that front plane. So we're seeing a little bit of the, maybe a little bit of the side of the calf there. I'm not going to draw the shoes. And then this whole front plane here of the foot, like this, and we're seeing a little bit of the side of that toe right there. And then the rest goes into the side plane of the foot like that. That would all be side plane. I'm going to shade this in, even though technically that part is like facing the light more. So following that, you can kind of see the inside of the leg here, right? Remember there's this muscle that goes like this, the serratus, whatever it is. Goes like that, curves in. That probably bugs people so bad when they've taken the time to memorize all these, Latin words perfectly, and I don't remember exactly how it's pronounced. It's really not important. It's not gonna help you draw better. So you can see that little bit of the side plane there. I'm gonna kind of shade this right here. So that's not side plane, inside of the leg, right? We're seeing a little bit of the inside of the leg there, and that would carry through. We're seeing a little bit of the inside of the leg right here as well. This plane is turning away from the light because remember the light's coming from the left. And it's still hitting the top a little bit, but it's turning away just a little bit. And then, this edge here, if we were to make this round, that's where the light's really hitting. And you can even draw, even though we're doing, you can start to round out the, almost looks like a contradiction because you're kind of drawing a block here. Draw it all the way to the edge. So you're kind of drawing a block here, but then you're rounding that block out. So it seems like a contradiction, but you can do those lines if you want, or you can do straight lines if you want to, show the blockiness. It's up to you. And the last we have is that little foot down there. So let's go ahead and zoom into that. And here you can pretty easily see, obviously we have a side plane of the foot and we have a top plane of the foot, right? You see all the toes and everything. So we know we have right about here, we have a top plane of a foot, and it kind of comes like this because you see all those tops of those toes. Kind of has a shape like that. And then we're seeing the side, everything in the side plane here. Ankle is something separate. And then with this here, we can kind of see a little bit, see how the kneecap kind of gives us a hint. We can see a little bit of the front plane. That's really turning away from us. So it goes like that, and that part right there is really turning away from us very sharply. And that comes all the way down to right about here, like so. You can see a little bit of that front plane. Right, see all this section right here, I'm going to darken it. You can see all that little bit of the front plane. And then it kind of almost disappears, and then it kind of comes back up here just a little bit. We see a little sliver of the front plane there, and then here. So I'm going to darken them up really dark so you can kind of see the two slivers I'm talking about. All right, those are the two slivers. You can kind of see the front plane of the calf or lower leg, shin bone. Let's go ahead and zoom out so you can see the whole thing. Oh yeah, and you can also put the put the eye line in there, put a little triangle for the nose, and a little bit of mouth shape, and voila. So we have boxified the character. Doing this exercise, I think, will really help you start to see the figure, the form, especially from the 3/4 view. It should help you start to draw the 3/4 view from your imagination so much better, or even from references, because now you can start to kind of see those points of the body and start to see how it would become a box. And if you guys want me to do some other poses, boxifying some other poses, let me know and I can do that. So what these exercises will do for you is then you can kind of combine the ideas together. So you can go, okay, well, I can draw a gesture, and then you can kind of boxify the gesture a little bit, or think about the boxes as you're drawing the gesture, and helps it give it more of a three-dimensional form to it. Or you can draw more stylized, and then while you're drawing stylized, you could think about boxifying it. So let's say, I don't know, let's just really quickly kind of throw in a basic shape here. We'll kind of go like this. We got our basic egg shape, and then we'll attach our hips. And I know that it's about, about like this. Kind of draw that line. Let's say we'll kind of pull like this. I'm just trying to think about, we'll kind of make it, yeah, we'll do that with it. Right, so we're going to kind of feminize it here. Boom. Something like that. And then, you can go through all the measurements and stuff. Relative positioning and some different, measurements, like kind of break this rib cage into 3 sections, and that's like the front plane, and then the side plane here, that's gonna be the corner. This is where I'm kind of thinking about boxifying. I'm just maybe you can draw light sketch lines, but I'm more thinking about it than I am, drawing it. But I'm just kind of showing what I'm thinking about there. And then the 3 sections, the breasts typically fit in that 3rd section of the rib cage. And because I know it won't go out that far, I'm viewing it from 3/4 view. And this one doesn't come out maybe a little bit past this line. If you haven't even sketched a light line, you can at least visualize it. Right, that's the basic shape. Remember, they come out like that. And then you have the little bit of skin that will be right here. The breast almost turns right into that skin, actually. And then this is actually really foreshortened. We're only going to be able to see a little bit. This collarbone right here is going to be super foreshortened. Like that. We're just going to be able to see a little bit of that shoulder there. and then the neck will be like this, right? And then this shoulder is gonna be out like over here somewhere. Remember, you have to kind of imagine the circle attaching and all of that. Kind of get a feel for the forms like this. I can draw the arm, basic arm shape coming out like that. You can also start to kind of boxify. Like, are you seeing it? Is the deltoid actually connecting around about here? If it is, we're seeing a little bit of we're seeing mostly the side plane of the arm. And maybe we'll see just a little bit of the front plane of the deltoid right there. And we're seeing a little bit of the front plane of the arm, So like that. They start the idea, hopefully. That skin right here comes up and tucks underneath the deltoid. Right, so you can start to see how this starts to work, and then the belly button will be right about here. Remember that if we take this lower section and divide it into thirds, that's about where the love handle starts. And then from the front view, this would come up. Actually, I'm going to get rid of that. That's too far down. We'll just go that far down. It comes up to about that line from the front view. So if I follow this line and imagine this being the front view, that's how I can get how far up that line will go. And that gives me the love handle. So one love handle is here, and the other one's on this side. But remember, it kind of changes its shape. Kind of on this inside, it kind of goes opposite because we have the shape there, but it kind of continues. What would be the love handle shape kind of comes up like this and continues and wraps around over here on this side. And then we have this shape comes out like this. And then we have part of the buttocks here that are going to be showing like that. Then you can imagine where where the legs are attaching to the body and everything. You have your the nipple line right here. There we go. So the nipples would fall along that line. At the crotch, and then we'll have this leg just kind of coming in like this, and we'll have this leg coming out this way, similar to what's over here, right? And so I did all this from imagination, right, without looking at anything, because I'm able to do that because I'm able to do this. I'm able to think this, but I'm also able to think the mechanics, that is the proportions and how everything kind of fits together. And I'm also able to kind of think about, the flow and movement that I want, within it. You could do gesture first and then start applying the principles of where everything is related to each other, all the proportions and the sizing and everything, and then also think about those three-dimensional structures. So here, this whole section here, it makes 3/4 views so much easier when you think about, boxifying. I think about these shapes, and I drew all this, but what I was thinking about is that same line that comes up right here, the buttocks. I was thinking about that buttock line coming up like this, where the leg attaches into, and I was thinking about this whole side section here where the leg, when I drew this leg over here, I was thinking about this whole section here where the leg attaches into, and it has this oval that kind of, we can't see it, but it kind of extends out further like that. And I'm seeing how all that attaches, and I'm thinking about where the butt attaches, like I'm thinking about some of the anatomy too, how the butt comes around, like where it attaches on the other side of the figure. But I'm thinking about all this, even though I'm not drawing it, all that, I'm thinking about all that, right? And the other thing I'm thinking about is, how much of the front plane and side plane. I kind of think about this side plane line coming down here. And now I'm probably able to see, a lot of this front plane of this leg here coming down to the knee. I'm probably able to see a little bit of the front of the knee. You can just kind of make it into a box like that. And then I'm able to see the side plane of this leg right here. Right. And I'm able to see, some of the buttocks because we're viewing it from 3/4 view. But I'm thinking about all that. And we can kind of even put a gesture line, for that leg here. And then maybe, I don't know what to do with this leg, but maybe she's kind of like, almost like she's walking forward. So we can kind of do it's hard for me to draw this small far away, but just a little bit of gesture line and structure. You can kind of mix them together. You can kind of mix the gesture and structure together of the shapes. Maybe she's on that foot. She's like planted on that foot more. The weight's like more on that foot and it's transferring over to this foot as she's walking forward. And right, just basic gesture lines. yeah, so hopefully you found this helpful. If that arm's going back, this arm's going forward. So actually you'll be able to see a little bit of that deltoid here. Just going to make this basic. Basic gestures. I usually do like a circle, and then you can add to that circle, some of the, that's kind of a side view. If she's turning her head, it'll always be a side view. If not, you can do a 3/4 view. Right, and then when you do that, you can come back in and go, oh, okay, so if I want to add some structure to this arm over here, let's erase some of this so it's not so like that. Now let's do that same principle, all from imagination now, right? We're not going to look at anything. We're just going to imagine how would this arm look. So the deltoid's coming up like that. I imagine the deltoid is attaching to the other side of the arm because I'm seeing the inside of the arm here. Since we're in 3/4 view, I can deduce that. And also, actually, it's similar to what we just drew over here, right? The inside of the arm, it's going up, but we're seeing the inside of the arm. And I know that because the deltoid is attaching over here to the other side of the arm. And so I know I'm seeing some of the top plane, maybe a little bit of the arm, and the side plane like this. So I can kind of, add some structure here. And then it's a little bit long, but it's fine. I could cut back into it a little bit. And then we have, the muscle attaches over here that goes into the brachyradialis that attaches into the side of the arm and then comes over here and attaches to the thumb side. Then you have this, and that's, knowing that anatomy is how you get the different shapes. But the same thing then, if unless I'm twisting the forearm, if I'm not twisting it, if the thumb is kind of facing up like this, or even if the thumb's kind of face out to the side here a little bit like that, and then the other rest of the hand is coming like this, even if that's the case, this whole top plane of the arm is still going to be visible, right? Because the thumb is pretty much on the top. I'd have to face it to where the thumb is facing out here to the side, and then you have this kind of side plane for that to be different when we're twisting the forearm. But typically when you're walking, it's going to be more like this. We're going to just kind of do a basic gesture like that. And so we have this top plane and the side plane of the wrist. I've kind of made it very thin, and that kind of comes up that way. That's a horrible line. I'm trying to draw this. I'm not used to drawing lines at that angle. I would turn my page, to hit that line right. I could actually hold down Alt in spacebar. Yeah, that would make it much easier for me to hit this line here. And then just hit this icon right here to go back. I'm using Paint Storm. And you can do the same thing for all of these arms, and everything. But now I had those basic structure. Now look at what I'm doing is I'm taking those basic structures that I had there, and now I'm just fixing it. I'm fixing the proportions, right? I wasn't thinking about the proportions too much. I was kind of far away. It's hard to see. And then I can come back in and start fixing the proportions of that hand. And I can do that for everything. I can come in and start fixing all the proportions. So you can start with a gesture, like I said, come up with some cool thing. That's just a basic, boring walking pose that I did for imagination. And it's not like I drew this exact pose thousands of times in my life. In fact, I don't know if I've ever used this pose ever. I might have drawn something similar to this pose a couple times. I did a lot of the drawing of my own comic books. I did like 80 pages worth of it before I started having to hire other people to help me work on it because I couldn't finish it myself. I was too busy. But I drew 80 pages of it by myself. Each page had an average of about probably 5 panels. Most of my pages had at least 4 panels. It's very rare I had less than that. So a minimum of 4 panels and up to 8 panels. So probably an average of more like 6. But anyway, so it's a lot of panels to draw, a lot of scenes to draw. And, sometimes you draw people walking, but this angle of walking and this style of walking, I've only probably haven't drawn very many times. That's my point. My point is I've drawn thousands and thousands of drawings and figures, and I haven't really drawn this one all that often. I'm able to figure it out by simply using the knowledge that I teach in my courses. I'm using the knowledge of movement of the body, so a little bit of like a movement, which would be like a little bit of animation to get a specific pose. I'm, a little bit of gesture I'm relying upon a lot of, knowledge that my brain has seen because I analyze photos and I draw over them or whatever, like we do with that boxified version. I'm relying on some anatomy a little bit, although I haven't really added too much anatomy to this figure. I'm relying on a lot of the structure of the human figure, though, like how it fits together, what those basic parts are, those basic mannequin parts, and how they fit together to form the body. So this kind of mannequin form of the figure is really important to learn and memorize, because then you can, if you understand those forms, like the three-dimensional view of those forms, especially the boxified version of those forms, you understand what those forms look like, and you can turn basic forms in space. If you can draw a rectangle and turn it in space, you're on the right direction. And then you can start to kind of visualize the body as if it were those basic forms, and you can just go, well, if the leg, if I go, the basic idea I know I have this, like, okay, that's gonna be where my hips are gonna be somewhere in here, let's say, right? And I go, okay, well, I want one leg coming out like this. I want this leg coming this way, like we did over here, right? And I know I want that, so I can go, I'm gonna build, from knowledge, I'm gonna be able to see some of that, the buttocks there, and I know that's what I want. Then I can go, okay, what shape would that have? Like, I can imagine how would I fit a rectangle into that shape? And so let's just say, what if this is a rectangle? How would I fit this into three-dimensional space? If I wanted to fit it into the space, how would I do that? And I can start to do that here. And I can start to see how that would work. And maybe I want to make it thicker, whatever, right? But that's how you think about it. Or a cylinder, you can like move cylinders in 3D space, but rectangle gives you more information. And so what you want to be able to do then is definitely, if you're not good at this, is definitely practice putting rectangles in 3D space. So say you have a rectangle and it's long, it's about like this, about the size of, let's say, a section of an arm or a section of a leg, and you want to move that around in space. You go, okay, well, visualize. How do you want, what is the person doing? Are they running toward us, running away from us? What is the leg doing? What is that wood doing? Imagine that wood's being swung by somebody like a baseball bat. So then what kind of shape does that have? Visualize, and if you need to put something on page, then put something on the page to kind of visualize, even curve if you have to. That's fine. Okay, now it's kind of coming at us, right? What if it's really coming at us though? Like this is like visualize it as a cylinder if that's easier at first, right? So it's kind of coming at us like this, right? Because it's being foreshortening, it's coming at us. And now we can start to box for that. Just pick where you want the corner to be. Let's say that's the corner. Okay, if that's the corner, turn this into a box, right? You should be able to turn a cylinder into a box and a box into a cylinder, right? Boom, like that. How do you turn this into a perfect cylinder? Simply follow perspective. Come back with the perspective lines. And then an oval has to fit perfectly inside this rectangle. Oops. Like that, right? A circle can fit perfectly inside. Then you have that center point, the axis, and you draw that axis coming right down to the center of this square or rectangle. I didn't quite make this rectangle enough because I did it fast, but so this is not a perfect example, but you get the idea, right? And then you just attach the edge of that circle to the edge of that circle, right? And if you can see that, we've now fit inside a rectangle, we fit the cylinder, right? So that's coming at us. And now if you imagine that as I'm going to go back to where it's more of a rectangle. Now, if you kind of visualize this as being a part of a limb, you just put it, I can get rid of these back lines because we don't need those. We just need the front, the front planes here. Or the visible planes. We don't need it to be see-through or transparent. Right? So if you see that and go, okay, well, that's part of a leg, then we know the knee is here, right? And so the knee has to continue fitting into this section, and then think about what you want the calf to be doing. So let's say we can kind of draw a line like that. And that's the front plane. That's the shin bone. And I'm going to draw the side plane here. Then I can add a little bit of this muscle over here, some calf muscle here, and then ankle, heel, side of foot, front plane of foot. I'm boxifying it. And you can start to come out. You can start to visualize. Now we can start to round this out. You'd probably be able to see a little bit here, a little bit of buttocks, and then the front plane here. So we can start to round all this out. And look at that. We start to get right. I wasn't even intending that to be a leg, actually. I was just drawing a 3D box, but you can see how now I can orientate that in space. So this is actually a cool shape for drawing the legs in three-dimensional form. It differs than what we did over here. So what I did, I'll show on this leg here, and we'll end this video. So what I did is I take first, I draw the shin bone line, which is a curve like this. And from the front view, if this is the knee, that's the thigh up there, draw a basic triangle for the lower leg. And the shin bone goes from the inside of the knee to the inside of the leg. Right? So this ankle from the inside of the knee to the inside of the heel or ankle area like that. And it kind of has a shape like this because the muscle attaches on that side. So it kind of has this kind of triangle shape right here. And then you have the calf goes like this, and it starts up here and comes down, has a slant shape like that, right? So I kind of add that into it. So here's the bottom of the knee. So I'm going to just kind of put that wedge shape in there. Boom. That's like that front view. I know I'm going to be able to see a little bit of this muscle over here. And then I'm going to add this kind of shape here, right, for the calf muscle. And then you have the ankle here, like that. Boom. And then you have this kind of horseshoe shape here. I'm going to see a little bit of the top plane of the foot, some of the side plane. Kind of draw that line down. Okay. Sometimes I kind of imagine it more like a shoe at first, and then you can come in and start, slanting this down more, start adding the anatomy, make that a big toe, and then you're seeing some of these planes here, and this comes down like that, and then you're seeing the other toe and the other toe like that, right? Anyway, you get the idea. Wait, what leg is this again? Oh, this was the outer leg. This wasn't the inner leg. So because this is the outer leg, that's all wrong. Heel, hardly any arch because we're seeing the outside of the foot, which is going to be the pinky side. And so we can still see that shape though, that top plane. And it's going to come drastically down now to make this pinky. And then over here would be like the big toe, middle toe like that, and all the toes are getting foreshortened. It's really hard to draw this small. It's like so tiny and so far away. But that's a cool shape to do for the leg. It's a cool gesture. And you can follow gestures like that. You can draw the leg, the front leg here, and then and then just do that swoop, and then you can just add that shape to it. It's really cool for gesture drawings, and it's fast. And if you have enough time, you can add that little muscle on the other side of that line. But I like this shape. So it's usually a curve in. This is like a side view, a curve that way, the basic curve, one straight line and straight line like that. Or you can just try to curve it if you can nail it. If you can go like this and then nail that shape, good. But usually an angle then a curve, or just an angle looks better. But it's really cool for stylized gestures. And I'm getting off topic, so. All right, cool. Hopefully you found this helpful at all. And if you did, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button, the like button, whatever the like button is on your system. Like the video. It literally takes you a second. If you'd please do that right now. Why have you not done it? Just like the video, please. All right, thanks.